Hello, welcome back to Raw Talk with Dr. Cami and almost Dr. Brandee. You got 6 months.
Close. March, I think, as
Yeah.
long as it continues to go smooth, which it will. We're sending that to the universe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
I'm excited for you. Cool.
so we're gonna continue our talks from last time.
Mhm.
How exciting. Maybe we need to recap the story you shared with your partner, and maybe you need to talk a little bit, just a quick recap of what we're applying the scenario to the chakras.
Mhm.
Right? So if you can just recap which the chakras are and what emotion is tied to them. We've already been through the bottom three,
Yeah.
and we're going to start at the heart today, but maybe a good recap would be good.
Yeah, so those chakras are a wonderful way to look at psychology. And they each hold their own specific emotion if they're blocked. And once you start to recognize what those are, you can more objectively view yourself and your life and your situations, and you can manipulate it a little bit differently, not react, but actually, adjust it. So the uh, root chakra is fear, sacral is shame, solar plexus is anxiety, heart is grief, throat is jealousy, third eye is am I crazy? And then crown is there is no God. Or if the name God specifically triggers you and makes you go, ooh, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. And so what the scenario that I remember was your spouse was up playing video games and you wanted to go to bed. And then when
Mhm.
you went to bed, you were kind of upset that he didn't go to bed with you. Am I missing anything on this scenario?
It was more of like, yes, that's correct. I was upset because I was being triggered from past like a lifetime of rejection that was starting to bubble its head back up.
Yeah, I think it's important for our audience to know what raw means in our conversations when we say welcome to Raw Talks.
Yeah, relationships are work.
So this is
Even
why
your relationship with yourself.
yeah, 100%. All relationships are work. And so we worked through the lower three chakras. We are now at the heart. So that's grief.
Mhm.
What do you
Yeah.
think, back at that scenario, if you use and apply this technique, how would you take that scenario and move it through your heart?
Well, I was trying to think about that a little bit before we chatted, and I had a whole thing, and then I kind of forgot about it because that's just the way my brain works. It's gone. I think that in that scenario, I was you flip grief to love, right? So you can grieve. Maybe we did talk about this. Maybe but I think I was grieving who I allowed myself to be, my minimum standard
That's right.
in my previous relationships in life.
Yeah.
But then it has to shift into a space of love, that those were gifts those experiences were gifts, and they helped me raise my standard,
Yeah.
right?
Do you
And
think there's a part that you had to grieve the old relationship so that you could accept the new relationship?
I think it was more grieving who I was and what I allowed in my life versus
Makes sense.
grieving another person per se, like
Yeah.
another entity outside of myself. I think it was more the having a higher standard within myself kind of thing. Yeah.
Personally pushing pause here, then we'll cut this out, but I gotta drink before I cough. She's like, oh, you can keep this in. It always starts when you're about to talk or something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Back.
Action. Now that you moved it through your heart, and we want to move it to your throat, and
Mhm.
I mean, people always talk about if your throat is blocked, then you're not saying what you need to say. but you had mentioned it has to do with jealousy. So can you take us through the same example, but moving it through your throat chakra?
Well, your throat chakra is how you express your inner world to your outer world, and it connects you with your ethereal twin kind of spirit thing. Spirit thing, you know that thing. Get some water.
Maybe we need to push pause and start that part over. Like, what is going on? I'm like, my marketing guy's gonna be laughing at this part. You're like, Brandee, I was like, look, I don't know what happened. I just started coughing and it wouldn't stop. Are you clearing my throat chakra, Cami? We're talking about this. You're like, maybe Brandee needs to work on her throat chakra. Normally when I work with clients, if they have stuff to work on and I'm working on them, I'm the one that's coughing for them. So maybe I'm coughing for you, even though I think you've worked through this one already.
I feel like that I have, but then again, I'm working on authenticity, so maybe not. I think there's always room for improvement.
So we're gonna retake number 2. So you just went through and explained. Let me talk to my throat for just a second. Listen, you stop. Let's say that. Can you imagine this on video? Oh my guys, I'm talking to my throat chakra. I don't know why it keeps coughing. I need to give it some attention. I haven't coughed all day, Cami. Okay. All right, you just finished talking about your heart and moving your scenario through grief. Can you please take us using your throat chakra? The same scenario.
Sure. That one's, I feel like, a little challenging, but so your throat chakra, your throat and your voice is how you express your inner world to your outer world, and it connects you with that ethereal twin, right? Your energy body and your like your aura. And so it's how you can start creating and putting the right kind of energy that you're wanting to manifest in the world around you. And so a lot of times if you're complaining about people or you're complaining about anything in life, generally it's a sign of jealousy. There's always something about somebody, even if you hate them, that you desire within yourself, or you're not expressing about allowing yourself to have, kind of thing. So in this scenario, it would probably be me not, instead of complaining to friends and other people, which and not talking to my partner, right?
Yeah.
Would be the way. And you can still seek out advice on how, like, because it's like the first draft, and then when you get to talk with your partner, you have things a little bit more articulated, and you've been able to, like you had mentioned that we like women talk, and that's how we find our solutions.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't ever want to I don't want to complain about him. I want to praise him. I only want to sing songs of praise because he's so magnificent. We all have our stuff. He accepts all mine too. So when you're sitting in that, it's like, well, am I expressing myself? And I can't. So then in this scenario I was going through in my mind, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, how do I bring this to him and go, well, you should be coming to bed with me, because it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Like that's not a real solution that does anything. Right. So as I'm thinking and you can do this with like your best friends, your mother, your sister, women tend to talk to other women, whoever, then you start to carve this path of, well, it's not that, and it's not that, and it's not that. This is where the problem is.
Yeah.
Right. This is not, and it's not even a problem. This is what the what's coming up for me and why it's coming up.
It can be the root cause, which I think is important to mention here, that every chakra has every chakra in it.
Yes.
Right. So you're in your throat chakra, and you're following the path down to where did you root that problem so that you can address it and ask the whys. And then from there, I always tell my clients, let's pull that seed that you planted once you follow the root, pull it out and plant the new beliefs you rather have in its place. So
Mhm.
you know it's a problem, like logically, not necessarily emotionally, though you're very emotionally intelligent. And you're like, well, I'm jealous he's not coming to bed with me. That is a trigger from my past, kind of as you work through your other chakras.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit jealous because maybe I want to spend time with him or I want to hold him or I just want, whatever, but it's not logical. So then what belief would you change? What's going a little bit back to the root? What is
Mhm.
change in that moment, that belief system maybe?
Right. Well, yeah, and I agree. I think that that's really important to note that you may start out right here, because I think that's probably where I started with this, was more, how do I formulate this into a cognitive or like, my own cognitive clarity, and then bring it into a productive conversation that's not emotionally driven because it's a reaction
Yeah.
versus, and so then you go through the conversation in your head, like, well, if I say it like this, then that doesn't sound exactly, the way it works. But um, I think it just all stems back for me to that piece of rejection that has been the
Mm.
pattern of my um, relationship experiences.
Yeah.
And when I pinpointed that, then I could go, oh, I get it. And all of these other actions that other people would do or have done to me, my partner's not doing it. It's this one piece without all this other gunk around it. But that one piece is the triggering part.
So using parts work, IFS, you would take that part, that rejection piece, and have a conversation with it and ask it, what do you do for me? Why are you showing up right now?
Hmm.
Often that rejection piece is a protector of some sort.
Mhm.
And so if you ask that rejection part, what are you doing for me? What do you think it did for you in that moment?
Clarity. I think
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it's I think it's good. It's a safety thing, obviously. Like, well, you don't want to feel that again. Are you sure that this
Yeah.
person's not, and you're like, no, it's okay. It's just like any fear-based anxiety, anything like that. It's
Yeah.
like, it's there to prevent you from being hurt again. Um,
Yes.
and really
But could it
analyzing the situation.
could it cause
Hmm?
you to be hurt again? If you don't dissect it,
Hmm.
I think in life sometimes we do over dissect things, but there's many times we under dissect things. Like we just let it stay to the surface and let it kind of rule us. So um the rejection piece helped you, but could it also harm if it's ignored? Like if you put it in your own head, like the belief that you're being rejected when you're actually not.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then you're reacting to your triggers versus responding. There's a
Yes.
big difference between the two. And the awareness piece around that is, and any the way humans learn anything, right? And how we become aware of something. I don't know if I said this in the last one because I say it all the time, but it's like potty training, right? I peed. I am peeing. I have to pee.
You did not bring that up last time. I like it.
I didn't. Okay.
I don't think so.
So I talk about that a lot. Like, this is how you learn. Like, you're going to react, and you're going to, like, if I could have gone out there all like protected and ready to fight and being like, you're hurting me, you're, all of this
Yeah.
stuff, yada, 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 and started a big fight. And he'd been like, what are you talking about? I'm just trying to de-stress and chill out. Like, I just do it differently
Yeah.
than you do. And it could have become a whole big thing. And then it like starts to make small fractures in the relationship. But when you start to just become aware of, like, so then you go into, I overreacted, I am reacting, or I want to react. And you have
Yeah.
to make your way through that. You're like, I'm in the moment. I'm starting to like do it. I'm recognizing that I'm doing it. And then you can move into, oh, I can feel it coming on, and now I can manipulate it to more align with what the outcome that I'm seeking. That makes
I
sense?
think that's great. I wanted to just bring up, since we're on the throat chakra, well, let me summarize what I just heard you say about moving it through the throat chakra. After you moved it through it, you kind of identified why you were jealous or what was happening for you. And then you, through self-talk, was able to come to the conclusion that he was not rejecting you, essentially.
Right.
You had to maybe heal some of your past triggers.
Yeah.
That's great. But remember, we're raw talking, so I'm just going to let whatever come in. And the thing that keeps popping in my head is how, well, there's two things. Number one, I was watching this video on Instagram. I don't scroll too much, but it was Chris Rock, who was like, couples, stop competing. You want the same thing. Stop competing. And it's so true when I'm doing couples therapy, how often the couples in front of me are saying the same exact thing. But then they use jealousy as a way to really restrict the other person. And example, this is moving into my second thing. Couples will say to one another, you can't talk to your friends about our relationship. I want to get your perspective on that.
I think there's a shame. It sounds like there's a shame piece built into that because they don't want to feel shame about the way that things are being handled from a third party perspective, perhaps. But I think I heard this once and I love it, that jealousy is like having bad breath. Everybody around you notices, but you don't. So people will never acknowledge, like, I am not jealous of that person, but I consistently check in their Instagram because I just want to see what they're doing. Oh, I made that mistake, haha, or whatever it is.
Right.
Or if you're, you know, whatever the scenario is. But I think that a lot of times in society now that we are just waiting to talk and nobody sits and actually listens and actively listens. And I think that the key to listening, and you can have your thoughts, because as you're talking, I'm like, okay, but I'm listening, because there's always gems and nuggets of truth in whatever someone else is saying. And so I can take a seminar, say, on something I feel like I don't like to use the word expert, but I'm very familiar with and I'm very deeply into. And a lot, like 90% of it's like, yes, I already know that I do that. But then there's that one piece, it's like the way someone words something, the way they change it, the way they, like, you're like, oh, yeah, because you want to hear it and digest it, alchemize it into your own, and then you can express it in your own way. But I think that people don't like criticism. They don't know how to handle criticism very well because it brings up a lot of lower chakra stuff of fear and shame and anxiety. But we're not perfect people. We're just not. That's part of life. And so if you are expecting someone else to hear you so that they can adjust their behavior, you have to be willing to do that the same way. And my number one mantra that I give people in personal and professional life is nobody changes till they're sick of their own BS. So you can want someone to change all you want, and they might want to change for you, but if it's not for them, the why isn't strong enough and it's not going to stick. And so there has to be that give and take, and you want to be able to grow together. And the other part of that too is that your relationships are work. And you have to want, I heard a lecture, but it was beautiful. And he was talking about, you want someone that your partner is someone who you can contend with. And they contend with your concept of reality, just the way that God would, or the divinity would, because you're wrestling with that. And if you're with someone who is like, yeah, you're fine, I love you, and all aspects of who you are, that would be boring. And you want someone who's going to push you so you can grow and stay in line with your potential, right? You want to grow with each other. And so I think you have to go into your own self growth with that in mind, but also into a relationship, that this relationship is going to ebb and flow, and we're both going to be changing.
Yeah.
And having open dialogue where we're actively listening to each other is going to be beneficial for that tension, and that friction is necessary in a relationship and even within ourselves. And that's why your personal growth, friction creates personal growth, and it creates its creativity even. So that's my 2 cents.
No,
There's
I
a
love
lot.
it. To add to that, just to pretty much complement what you said, there's a book that Dave Lanyon wrote that talks, you're not perfect the way you are. You know, because so many people will say, you're so perfect the way you are, but the reality is we're not. And that can create a delusion, because then we're not facing those parts of us. And in order for us to change, to be better, we have to look at our imperfections so that we can strive for the best version of us that we can. And it's through that, you call that, I think, hardship. You said something else, but I call it chaos, friction. You know, you have to move through that chaos to get to that joy by facing and accepting that we are not perfect, right? And then earlier I wanted to talk about, I think you did an amazing job. You took jealousy and you essentially described the light and dark of jealousy. So the light side of jealousy, if we're looking at, I like the spiritual concepts of light and dark, you know, so you take, or the higher self and the ego, however, whatever terminology you want to use. So jealousy, the light side is, hey, I'm jealous of that person. I want to be more like that. And then you do that self-reflection, and then you set a goal or a plan to make that happen, right? I remember years ago, I was sitting at his conference, and these ladies were on stage talking about meditation, and I was a little bit jealous, and I was like, I don't get jealous. And I said, oh, it's because I love teaching. I love being in front of people, and I love teaching. I love holding space and helping people remember who they are. And so I said, I thanked the energy and said, okay, I need to put something on my books to teach more, because I do miss doing it, because I've done it pretty much all my different careers that I've had. And then the dark side, or the egoic side of jealousy, is the putting down, the degrading of somebody, deflecting external locus of control. You know, like I would say that the light, in therapeutic terms, the light side is internal locus of control, which is the ability to look at yourself, be able to say, hey, why is that bothering me, and do the changes, right? And then the dark, or the egoic, is the external locus of control, where you're blaming everyone else. It's everyone else's fault. My life sucks because it's everyone else's fault. So they both somewhat have a purpose, but if you can find that middle pillar, that middle center, and be like, you know, I don't know how much of the dark I don't want to use, but we're all human. We get a little defensive or reactive, though we rather respond. So I think you did a great job describing the light and dark of jealousy that sits in. And if you think about just discussions generally, you know, I do like couples and individual therapy all the time, and how so much is from here, and so much of the couple, even themselves, restrict themselves from growing, and there's so much external that occurs, right? If only they would get better, then our relationship would be better. If only, and though they're you can have we can debate about this concept as well, is that at what point is it really them or is it really me, or you know what I mean? Like that's where that accountability piece comes in. I really do like how you said, as Dave Lanyon says, you know, you only can meet someone where they are. And when you start to do more work, and then I'm sure many other people have said this recently, Dave Lanyon said it recently, is there's always you can't work harder than the other person before you, because then you're wasting your energy and time. But if you can meet each other where you are and hold space for each other, then you have the greater chance of growing. But if you go in being defensive, reactive, and external, then you stay stuck in a cycle. And it's so damaging to all relationships, right? And it's exhausting, I would say.
Yeah, it's I always like to say the light and the dark is basically bringing awareness to ignorance. That's what I tell people, especially that's like, you know,
I love it. Yeah.
But I think I was just listening to a Mind Valley, which is like a great app if anybody's interested. It's like a personal growth app that's phenomenal. But he was talking about the 4 levels of consciousness, and level 1 is a victim stage, and life happens to you. And
Yeah.
those people are, we've all been there. Everybody is. You got to grow from that. But there's all of this like societal influences and ads and traditions, even.
Yeah.
Traditions are a big one where people are like, well, I can't because this is just the way things are. And he described it as peer pressure from dead people. And it's
I
like,
love that.
right?
Yeah, peer pressure from our
So,
ancestors to stay broken. But
yeah.
sometimes when we do that, though, we dismiss the power of the lessons that our ancestors were actually trying to teach us. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so it's interesting how we'll grab onto something that helps us stay stuck as a victim, as the story, versus grasping it and helping us push through chaos. And I
Yeah.
want to come back to your four things that he was talking about. I just have a quick example I would like to give on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't say this last time, but hey guys, and we might repeat. It just is.
We will.
I
Let's
was
just say it. We both have multiple children and we're small business owners. It'll be repeated.
yes, it will be repeated.
We don't have good brains right now.
Yeah. But as you know, I was in one of my old careers, I was responding to a call of a lady who I was law enforcement, and she was crying on the side of the road. So I pulled over and I just simply said, hey, like, I think I was walking actually, because I was going from, that doesn't really matter, but I was walking from a current situation to my car, and the lady was on the side of the road crying. So I went up to her and I was like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And she's like, yeah, yeah. I lost my baby. And the age and um, didn't match her current condition of grief, if that makes sense. So then I said to her, I am so sorry. How long ago? She said 30 years ago. And so that's when I went into conversations with her about being a
Mhm.
victim. And so I asked her the question. I said, what are you gaining from holding this story? Because you're not allowing yourself to heal. And she said, she sat back and she looked at me and she's like, no one's ever asked me that question before. So she thought about it and she gave me an answer. She said, wow, I've been holding on to that story because that's how I get attention.
Mhm.
And in that
Mhm.
moment, because I was willing to take a moment just to challenge her, but still with love and compassion, because I cannot
Yeah.
imagine that, she was able to make a decision to shift her life. And at that moment, I don't know if she continued to have that story or if she let it go, but she had the opportunity to put it down and to start her healing.
Interesting. It made me think of codependency
Yeah.
and how, I mean, I was that way too. Maybe still a little, but I like the explanation that codependency is the desire to be wanted because it's as close to being needed, or no, it's codependency is a desire to feel needed because it's as close to being wanted as you can get. And if that doesn't explain my rejection in my past relationships, like, oh yeah, okay, I'm choosing the wrong people. You have to need me. I'll do everything for you so that you need
Yes.
me because you don't want me, and that's as close as I can get, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And then we
Yeah.
lose ourselves. So many masks that we put on, because I don't know how many clients, I've been a therapist since 2013, and I don't know how many clients that they serve the other person without serving themselves. To the point where they don't even, if a person says they like this music, they like that music.
Yeah.
If they want this, they do this. There's no authenticity because of the desire to be loved. But then people don't realize the love is actually in front of us if we can accept our own authenticity.
Well, and that's what the heart is too. I'm going to bounce back down there for a sec, because when you step into this idea of self-love, and maybe you have to fake it till you make it for a little while. And
100%.
I swear to you, I've been practicing different things about, I'm going to love my skin. And my skin
Yeah.
after having 2 babies, oh my God, it cleared up so fast. And
Yeah.
lately I'm like, okay, fine. I have tried to tone up my legs and my butt forever. I'm going to focus on that. And I'm going to love my thighs and my
Yes.
butt the way it is. Granted,
100%.
you can love you can love and be happy and still want to improve. I'd like to point that out.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, well, if I give up this shame, blame, push, power thing, then I'll never get to where I want to. No, it's not. But I'm telling you that the love that I give myself has made more of a difference in my physical body than I have. And I've been working in and out of gyms since I worked in gyms since 2008 until like 13. Like, I mean, it was crazy. Like, I've been in and out of gyms doing stuff. I've been doing all of these things. And it was interesting because in that lecture, he was talking about Sylvia method and creative visualizations, and how the skin is actually the most receptive of the organs for visualization. And so if you really want to get into the Sylvia method, it's really cool. And it's great. But he was talking about that's how he healed his skin issues. He had really bad acne and stuff. And so just through the power of thought.
We're living, moving organisms, right? And there was a study done. I mean, just to think about the power of the mind. And I should probably find the reference, but I'm sorry, guys. I do so much reading. But there's this study. There's a study that was done where they took two groups. They took one group who played the piano for real. Then they took another group and they played the piano in their minds only. And what they found is the people playing in their minds every night actually were able to gain, as I think, a little bit more than what the ones in life. You've heard of that one?
But but they concentrated on it for an extended period of time. So it's not like you just pop in and go, oh, we should play the piano. Like, there's a lot more to it. But
100%. You have to put the intention there, right? It's not like just a quick. Same thing with loving your body. My hip has hurt for 3 or 4 years every day, and science shows how I believe the bones, you probably know this more than I do, Dr. Cami, but my bones, I think they replace themselves every 2 years, and the whole body every 7. And so I said, oh, yay, I have a chance, because I went to this anatomy class to learn some of the healings I do. And I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. So the last 2 years, I've been taught every night I go to sleep. I think about from my toes all the way up to my head about my bones being strong. And I imagine between every vertebrae, the cushion that, guys, when the cushion goes down, what is it called? Between the vertebrae of your back. Yeah. And if it goes away, it's like arthritis and back problems and hips. So they said my hips had arthritis. And so I've been thinking about that being gone. And I'm not kidding. Today, my hip maybe hurts once every week to 2 weeks. But I'm also not done. Like, I'm doing it every night. And of course, I'm doing some stretches that I know will help my body. And I'm listening to my body when it's like, you need to stretch today. You need to run today. You need to do this today. Maybe stay away from this because it inflames your arthritis. But we're living, moving organisms, and our mind is so powerful. So there's so much research around what positive thinking and intention that you can't ignore it, really.
Yeah. Well, attention is the beginning of devotion. And if you're going to put it on your brain, I mean, there's a lot of tricks and tools and things that they don't talk about. It, like for manifestation, there's some very core key pieces that maybe we can eventually get into, and tools depending on where you're at. But you're taking that action when it comes to you. So you want to get your hip better. You're not going to be sitting around on the couch or in an uncomfortable position. You're not going to be doing things that are your conscious decision to heal yourself brings about different habits and behaviors that you bring into your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And if you're stuck in between the thinking and the acting, there's something there that you can work on. And a lot of people are stuck in the thinking and they can't act, and there's a lot of tools around that. So,
well, I think this is a perfect segue to the third eye, right? So, the power of the mind and the thinking. You said the third eye represents, am I crazy? Because that's where we start to ask that question. Really, like even this conversation, people might be like, "This is crazy," right? But when your spouse was in the living room and you went to bed and you're kind of throwing a little pity party within yourself, but then you paused and you started doing the work. You started decreasing that gap between that thought pattern and I don't know if it's reality or the thought pattern and what you wanted. Anyways, you started decreasing the gap because you did active work. So thinking about, am I crazy? Did you ask yourself that question when you started having these emotions?
I can't remember exactly, but probably. I think that I'd like to point out though that this whole process probably took me moments. Like
Yeah.
it's just,
You've been
it sounds
practicing
like
it
a
for a
lot.
while though.
It sounds like a lot, but when you do it, you're like, oh, boom, boom, boom. And it
Yeah, the
becomes
more
more
you
like,
practice it,
yeah.
the faster it becomes. And I think people need to know, number one, when you're taking yourself through these chakras, if you choose to write this modality down and you work your stuff through them, then have compassion because it might take several sessions
And
within
this is only
themselves
one tool. This is only
that we're
one
going to talk
tool
about for sure.
that I don't always use. You have to be able to take all these tools and go, this is how I feel today. I don't feel like that. That's not going to work. Oh, that one sounds good. It has to flow with your life.
There's too many different people in this world for one modality or one tool to work. So
And there's too many moods in a day. Dang. I'm like, I don't want to do it,
all
I
these
can't.
different parts of us.
Yeah. I mean, I do thrive with a consistent schedule, but with my life, I can't always do that. And so I have to be able to pull tools that are going to work with what I've got in front of me for the day. But
Using this tool, what do you think you did? Replaying it in your mind.
So with your third eye, it's your intuition also, and it's your, seeing beyond kind of thing. You could probably give more insight on the third eye. I always
We'll talk
like
about that later. But yeah, well, we will talk about that because we're only
yeah,
doing level one of even chakra systems, even within this is one thing that you use with my clients. I do readings on their chakra systems. And when I do readings, I find past traumas hidden in each of their systems that like they can be 8 years old and something happened in their root. They could be, 8 years old and something happened in their throat that really stops them from moving. So yes, we're going to get deeper, you and I, into talking about these systems, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I think that for me, the third eye is more of like a way to see into the patterns and to start to look at the future the future, the way we understand time is that the future is really just a bunch of possibilities, like quantum level of possibilities, right?
Yes.
You can wake up every morning. You have so much more control than you even realize. How you interact with your partner, how you interact with your boss, how you present yourself, like like all of that stuff. Your partner. They're this beautiful person. But if I come in a certain attitude, they're going to change and they're not going to, they can be multiple people as well as I can be.
Yes.
And so you have this limitless possibilities for your day. You could throw everything out the door, take everything out of the bank and go Costa Rica and live on the beach or whatever you want to do. Like those, they're not like necessarily realistic, but they're options and you can do all of them, And
I always say if you're dreaming about something like moving to Puerto Rico, then what actionable steps are you going to take to get there?
Well, you do, and you play out those scenarios, but the reality of it is that the future doesn't exist. What you're doing is you're picking a goal or an aim or a future, and you're pulling that into now. So you wake up and you're like, I've got the option to take a shower or not.
Yeah.
Pull that future in and do it, kind of thing. And you can do that one with bigger projects. You can do that with all things. So I think that for me, it was a quick look through the past and finding core issues from lots of stuff, and then looking at the future that I want and realizing that I'm already on that path. And then you start to look at, okay, well, these are the possibilities of handling this situation, and you can play those out. And you get and the thing is that's really cool is you get a taste of what those possibilities can be. And that's why you have made yourself sick being stressed. We all have. So can you make yourself healthy like you're doing with your hip if you think it? So what you're doing is you have put the aim out there, your goal, you see it, you want to get your healthy. And you may not be 100%, but dang, you're going to have a good quality of life because you're pulling that reality in of having a healthy hip. right?
And what you're talking about right now, Dr. Cami, is manifestation. And maybe in one of our future talks
Yeah.
about manifestation within relationships, we can dive deeper into that. But that's essentially
That's,
what you're talking about,
it's,
right?
yeah.
Manifesting within a relationship, walking out and making a decision what you're going to pull in. And how there's so many different elements here. I can only imagine some of the listeners thinking, I do that with my spouse, but they don't do blank, right? Because there's a reality there, and that's something we can dive into a little bit more later. But I think it's important that we, the person listening, knows they have this tool because they can start the work. Because you, like you said earlier, we cannot make our partners do the work, but we can show up. We can set
Yeah.
standards. We can ask. We can, express our needs and hope they listen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And hopefully in a relationship that's healthy, there is this give, this transparency, this movement, that's what most couples want. They just want transparency to listen to each other, to find solutions, and hopefully hold a space of past healing as well. Because
Yeah.
I don't know a single person. When someone says to me, I have trauma, I'm like, we all have trauma. We're in the trauma, we just left the trauma era, and we're still kind of in it with all these wars and all this other stuff going on. We're kind of in the chaos of it all. That's probably for another conversation, but we all do. So don't take away from someone else thinking they don't. They might have not the same.
Yeah, it's true. It's not the same. And I think that it's interesting to note that through all of this, I've really, like, when I do these deep dives, some of the key things that have come up for me that may be beneficial for other people is we have different priorities.
Yeah.
And that's big. And we have different tolerance levels.
Yep.
And so if I'm really mad and scrubbing the toilet, because God dang it, why am I the only one that does this? I have to say, if I want help, I need to ask.
Yep.
Because he doesn't see it because his tolerance it hasn't hit his tolerance level. Mine's a lot lower for that stuff.
Yeah.
And we have different priorities. So he's like, these are the things that are more important to get done. And so we have to, that's kind of how I think about it when I'm in the moment feeling all of this stuff. It's like, you can either shut up and do it, or you can speak your mouth, or you can speak your voice and say what you want to say.
Speak your mouth is a good way to say it too.
Speak your mouth. But the thing is too, is that if I ask for something, if I say, hey, and this has happened in the past, and it's like, hey, can you just clean the bathroom?
Yeah.
3 days later, are you gonna get to that?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with my kids. And I was in the book, what is it? I can't remember. It's a parenting book and it's amazing. It's like a hunter-gatherer parent. And she talks about there's this culture, and I think it's in Mexico or somewhere, and she went there and the mom's like, just not stressed at all. She gets the kids up and she's like, go get your shoes. And it's like, every 15 minutes or so, she's like, get your shoes. And she's always calm about it. And it's just like, oh my God, I can't. Like, it's like 3 days. I'm like, are you going to pick this up? And they're like, why are you yelling? Why are you mad right now? I'm like, that's gaslighting. Dang it.
We're in such a high vibrational, high demand, high stress, at least in most American spaces. I can't speak for other countries or cultures. So high stress that there's so many demands on families that it's like, hurry up, let's go. It's not take a breath and let's enjoy the moment. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Take a moment, enjoy the moment. Just do one thing at a time, which is true, but yet we don't allow ourselves. It's almost like, how is the system? How did we get here to the system in which we're so busy, you almost can't breathe?
It's probably a good long discussion, but I think it's interesting to note that stuff, to be like, you can ask, but then you have to let go of your agenda of the rest of it.
Yep. 100%.
And you can tap in every few days. Like, you're gonna get to that bathroom because I'm itching here. Like, my eye's starting to twitch here. You got to do something. But
this will be a good topic for our next discussion. Even though it's raw, we still have the crown. We can talk about it. Yeah, we still have to do the crown, but maybe this is part of it. But is the concept of man the F up or man the woman up? that is a good discussion to maybe step into after we do your crown chakra next time. But did you finish your third eye? Because we have just a few more minutes to end.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I
And
think
use
it's
your intuition, move it through your. I'm telling you, when I read people's crowns, how messy their rooms can be in their head, right? And then we have to kind of move stuff out their head for them to really kind of sink into other places. I mean, this is our channel to our intuition.
Yeah.
To say it the least, right?
but
For
if
the
you're
moment.
blinded
Yeah.
by programming and autopilot and reactions and trauma, which we all are, how
Yeah.
can you receive intuition and see your potential and then start embodying it? And so it's important, wherever you are in your path,
Yeah.
you can't go back. You're awake. Keep going.
Yeah. Keep moving forward. Just keep waking up. And I always say, if someone says their third eye is all the way open, they probably have a lot of work to do, because as long as we're here, we're still working on opening it.
Yeah. And it cycles through. It's just the way things work.
And then life happens and does this again. And we have to, like closes your third eye for a second. And then you're like, wait a minute, let me face that. Wait, hold on.
Yeah. But it's an excited curiosity that starts to develop, because we'll talk about that the next time, when you're starting to step into the flow of the universe, or it's called flow hacking it's called being in flow for a reason. So when you start getting into that flow, it's addicting, it's healing, and you feel good, and you're like, you're finally feeling like this connection to something unknown, but deeply forgotten. Like it's known, but it's been forgotten.
Yes, exactly. So, well, today was a great conversation. I look forward to talking to you again. And we're going to just close down this podcast for now. Everybody, have a good night or day, or whatever it is for you.
Stop recording, Brandee.
I'm working on it.